They say everybody gets their day in court. Michigan and the Big Ten are going to avoid theirs against each other.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
I think that's the collective deep breath, the collective sigh of maybe relaxation within the Michigan administration right now. Things were pretty tense. Things were pretty aggressive there for a while, but they might be thinking about this thing a little bit more strategically than emotionally going forward. The University of Michigan has officially accepted the 3-game suspension that was handed down from the Big Ten, and they're going to avoid their day in court against each other. On Thursday midday, some statements were issued by both Michigan and the Big Ten Conference on this fact. Let's start first with Michigan's statement. This morning, the university, Coach Harbaugh, and the Big Ten resolved their pending litigation. The conference agreed to close its investigation, and the university and Coach Harbaugh agreed to accept the 3-game suspension. Coach Harbaugh, with the university's support, decided to accept this sanction to return the focus to our student athletes and their performance on the field. The conference has confirmed that it is not aware of any information suggesting Coach Harbaugh's involvement in the allegations. The university continues to cooperate fully with the NCAA's investigation. Here's what the Big Ten followed up with. The Big Ten Conference's commitment to student-athlete sportsmanship and the commissioner's duty to protect the integrity of competition will never waver. Today's decision by the University of Michigan to withdraw its legal challenge against the conference's November 10th notice of disciplinary action is indicative of the high standards and values that the conference and the university seek to uphold. The University of Michigan is a valued member of the Big Ten Conference, and the conference will continue to work cooperatively with the university and the NCAA during this process. Can't we just be friends again, right? Maybe that's happening right after this family spat between the Big Ten Conference and the University of Michigan. I believe Michigan is thinking about this thing maybe more level-headed, maybe a little bit more strategically than emotionally. Okay, from fans to maybe coaches and players, and then all the way up to administration, there's been a lot of emotion right within this Michigan program. You had some folks on the Board of Regents, pretty high spot at Michigan, suggesting they leave the Big Ten Conference. Folks, nobody's leaving the Big Ten Conference. Nobody's leaving the Big Ten. Michigan is not leaving the Big Ten Conference. I just want to get that out there and say that right now. I believe with this statement and accepting this 3-game suspension and avoiding their day in court against the Big Ten Conference, Michigan is taking a step forward to achieve the best possible solution for this season and going forward. The best possible solution for Michigan is not going to be determined by judges against the conference, is not going to be determined by lawyers or a jury. They want their best possible solution for this season to be determined by folks like J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum. They want to put the focus back onto the players on the field. And I will give credit to Michigan. I think that this statement and this decision that they made, accepting the 3-game suspension, is now they're able to look forward and try to accomplish the goals that they set out to. Because this is all about, right, in this process, their goal has been, how do we continue our goal to win a national championship? Now, I will say this. You saw that in that Michigan statement. The Big Ten is closing their investigation, so no further penalties from the Big Ten Conference. You know what that tells me? No further penalties this season. Because if you think that the NCAA, everybody's favorite organization, right? If you think the NCAA is going to come out and hand down a penalty to Michigan before the college football playoff, you're living on Mars, you're living on Neptune. If there's one thing I know about outer space, humans cannot physically exist on Neptune. And the NCAA making a decision before the college football playoff maybe only exists in a world where humans can't exist, right? That's at least the way it seems. We know how these things go with the NCAA. I've said it the past few weeks, it seems like the NCAA is bundling things with Michigan, right? You got the cheeseburger gate, you got that Matt Weiss investigation with the FBI, and now you've got this sign stealing situation. So I don't think that's all going to be done in January. It's going to be maybe closer towards next football season, possibly, if not later on than that. So, although this may look like Michigan standing down a little bit to the Big Ten Conference, and it is, this is maybe, if you look at results on the field, if you look at the best possible solution for this season, this may actually be somewhat of a positive, I think, for the University of Michigan. And I think when you look at this thing from the Wolverines standpoint, there was a lot of evidence stacking up against you. Have we heard anything from Central Michigan University as it pertains to who was that guy on the sideline? If that was not Connor Stallions, we probably would have heard about it 2 days, 3 days after the fact. I came out and said, that's not Connor Stallions, hair, that stuff. I'll take the L on that one. The more time that goes by, I think Central Michigan is trying to figure out why in the heck was Connor Stallions on our sidelines. Okay, and then there's other evidence that's really stacking up. I know due process has been a term that's really been thrown around. The Big Ten, okay, I said it from the start. If the Big Ten can find something within their information and their investigation, if they find things that violate the sportsmanship policies, they definitely should act. And that's exactly what Tony Petitti did in this particular situation. Okay, because it was reported and we found out the NCAA was sharing information with the Big Ten Conference. And they spelled it out, right, in some documents that were eventually released as to why they came up with the penalty that they came up with. Now, let's talk about Tony Petitti for just a minute. I do not envy the position that Tony Petitti is in right now. Was in, is in, and will continue to be in with Michigan going forward. Hopefully today's statements can, we talked about the deep breath, right? The relaxation. The administrators at Michigan, maybe Tony Petitti can take a little bit of a deep breath now instead of having so much pressure on him right now. Because with all of these things, everybody's so mad at each other and all the tension and aggression really heating up at that time, it was very difficult, I think, for him to make a good decision. The decision that he was going to make was not going to please everybody. Of course, that's blatantly obvious. But I think for being a first-year commissioner, I thought he did all that he could do. I thought he made the best decision that he could at that moment in time. If he had information, which it appears he did, he had the information to act, he had the information to hand down the penalty that was handed down. So when we talk about due process, at least maybe from the Big Ten standpoint, that was maybe fulfilled on that point. We'll see where this thing ends up going down the road. It's going to be very interesting to see how all of this plays out. But it's going to play out at the NCAA level. And if I'm a Michigan fan right now, and if I'm a Michigan supporter at this point in time, I don't hate that. I don't hate that. The Big Ten part of this is done. It's over. Jim Harbaugh, okay, they're probably going to beat Michigan with Sharon Moore. We know Ohio State is going to be a big-time challenge. Not having Harbaugh on the sidelines for that Ohio State game is going to be a big deal. No question about that. The last thing that I want to talk about, it does pertain to Jim Harbaugh. And I brought this up on Twitter, and I think this is not just a Michigan issue. It's not just a Big Ten issue. It's a national issue. How much information of everything within a program should the head coach know? Because that's where we're at right now. Jim Harbaugh, right, the Big Ten, the NCAA right now, they haven't been able to connect any of this information back to Jim Harbaugh. How much Should a head coach know? I think that is a legitimate question. I think that's a discussion that we can all have, I think, going forward, right? It goes back, remember, in the summer with Pat Fitzgerald, right? He didn't know. And you've got this hazing thing going on in the locker room. I know those are kind of apples and oranges. One of them is kind of players behind the scenes maybe doing their own thing, and this is more game planning, game day type of deal. But I think it begs the question, and I think we need to establish this going forward so we can deal with these things properly in the future. How much does a head coach have to know? Can the head coach get off free? Can he relieve maybe some of his responsibilities by not knowing things? Or does a head coach have to know every single thing that's happening under his roof? I want you to leave your thoughts on that in the comments, because I'm very curious of what you guys think in this one. And then also leave your thoughts in the comments about this situation with the statement that Michigan made and then the corresponding statement that the Big Ten made going forward. Michigan appears the road to the college football playoff, road to the national championship. Doesn't appear that it has many major obstacles in front of it. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We will see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.